Welcome, everyone. Thank you to the first conversation in this new series, Voices of Palestine. Many of you might be wondering, what is the Global Summit? If you weren't connected through it, as some of our voices are today. And many people who are here because they know Yazan and Butaina from the event that we collaborated in back in 2018 in Jordan. We held an event called the Global Summit, Beyond Borders, There is a Solution. And what's really remarkable is that, all those years ago, I was actually living with Palestinians. I had actually married a Palestinian. I was taking care of a Palestinian child. I was driving my mother-in-law's Toyota Prius, and I was going to protests when something would happen with a death or, some kind of human rights abuse. But there I was. And, there's this huge injustice going on the other side of the border. And it didn't occur to me to utilize the platform Beyond Borders, There is a Solution, to stand up for what our mission had always been, which is to have the people who are most affected by critical rights abuses, Indigenous people who normally don't get to have the platform that we're trying to create, to have them really be in the center of the conversation. And meanwhile, Yazan was doing our scholarship program. Butaina was working on the Thriving Cities track, bringing in speakers. And I knew it was happening, but it was like one of those things that you just think, well, it's ubiquitous, it's there. There's nothing we could ever do to change it. And so we didn't. And so what I want to say to those of you out there who are like, wow, I'm learning so much about what's been going on in Palestine and occupied Palestine, and why didn't that occur to me that was wrong? And so hopefully this can be a change to that, and it's okay. And if you're wondering, if you're a little bit suspicious about media platforms, I think you should be. And so with this, we're not even a company right now. The Global Summit was an event series, just to give a little background, that went from 2008 until 2020. It has been on a indefinite hiatus after 7 international series, the last one in Tokyo that went around the world. And, we did what we did. But this feels like an important, critical time to come back out and say, let's do whatever we can. And so this is a small offering to the conversation, and it's an invitation for all of us to lean in a little bit more and to come back to our humanity. We also, I am very honored to be collaborating with a group of people, regular people. Fatina is one of them that I just met from Unmute Humanity, and they're calling out media bias. And it's way overdue, and it's working. And so here we are, not a big media organization, but a group of individuals. And the invitation is to listen today and more in our lives to the lived experience of the people that we meet. So thank you. And I know a lot of groups have been acting with integrity, and they have been standing up for the rights of Palestinian people. I also did want to mention perhaps some of my cognitive dissonance that I have exhibited and had throughout my life around this issue, because I have been championing human rights, and I didn't pay attention to the Palestinian cause for so long, like really not until the last 5 months. And I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. My dad was a Persian Jew, and his side of the family, I always heard about, the Palestinians in the way that a lot of people hear about them. And I think it just became part of my subconscious. And that's the problem, is we don't know why we think things anymore. We don't stop to question these thoughts, and we think they're our own, but they're not our own. So many of the things that are going through our mind are not really our thoughts. And so I've actually been working hard on myself to come into my center. And I know I have a lot of work to do. We all do. We have a lot of healing to do. And so let the healing begin. I will hand over and honored and humble to these amazing voices that I'm so grateful to have here today. And in the spirit of human to human, gosh, who do we start with? Well, since I've been talking with Fatina about these questions to kind of set the tone, Fatina, could you just share with us a little bit about who you are today? Very briefly, how did you choose to be doing what you're doing? And just that. And then we're going to have another round of questions to everyone. Okay, but let's just keep this first one really short because we have a lot of ground to cover. Um, one more thing, the intention of this is to be an ongoing series. So we are not going to be able to cover the last 100 years or thousands of years. That's not our role. We want to be human to human. But this first conversation is just that. Who are a few Palestinians? What are their unique stories and realities? And in future conversations, we would like to get into so many other issues. So today it's, what is your lived experience as a Palestinian? And so to bring that forward, who are you today and how did you get there? And then we'll be asking all of you about maybe a personal story that really, called to you as a Palestinian, what that meant to you, what that looked like, maybe a point in history where you went aha or wow or whatever it was. And then we have some more questions with the time that's left. Okay, Fatina, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. كل عام وانتم بخير. Ramadan Kareem. So my name is Fatina Jura, and I was born in Puerto Rico. Obviously my family's Palestinian. They were born in Turmus Aya, which is a qarya. We say a town in Ramallah. And so, gosh, what led me to who I am today? There's just so much. I think there's so much to unpack. My family, I have my father and my mother, and just like kind of starting with their story, my dad was born, pre the Nakba, 4 years pre-Nakba, and then my mom after, the Nakba. And I think when I reflect on my journey and who I am, it was very much defined by their journey and their forced immigration story to Puerto Rico, and then of course here to California, everyone. I'll go into that and a little bit more into the webcast. I'll talk about that, but I think my parents didn't have opportunities. Although they weren't. When you think of Turmus Aya, Palestinians living in Turmus Aya, they weren't directly expelled, but nonetheless, I mean, there was a complete shutdown on economic opportunities, and so my dad had to sort of find his way from Peru, and he left in 1966. And just sort of tried to make his way, and he's been a foreigner to his native land ever since, even though he's indigenous to that land. And I'm currently an educator. I'm a principal. I think, again, going back to my sort of origin story to influence my decision to go into education, because I want to disrupt these global inequities that exist. That's really why I went to education, disrupting systemic inequities here, just based on some of the discrimination that I saw that my family went through when they moved to the United States. You're not really fully American. You're far away. You're like a foreigner to your own land, and it's not even acknowledged. It doesn't exist on any maps that we study at school. So that was that created a lot of cognitive dissonance for me, not being able to see, like, I know Palestine exists, but yet going to school, it didn't exist, and my teachers wouldn't even acknowledge it, right? It was like, it was Israel, and that's it, right? You're not really Palestinian, you're not from Palestine, because where do you point? Where on the map do you point, right? And so, and I wanted to change that, right? Because I think there's so much power in education, going back to the mission of Unmute Humanity and like truth. And so that's why I am in the position that I am, because I really want to create spaces for everybody's story. It's about inclusivity and really like amplifying truth, right? Because I know how impacted I was not being able to show up fully Palestinian until this genocide. Like, I know how demoralizing, desensitizing, how painful it is to go through life with that type of like disenfranchised pain and marginalization. And so this is sort of how I'm showing up right now. Thank you.
Just want to say that that's a really powerful story, and they really shows how, like, the lengths that someone would go just to call a place home, like from being displaced, from being able to share with the whole world their story, as well as being an educator, so that, as you just mentioned, just point to the map and say, that's home. That's really strong. And we're always here with you. Well, of course, us and everyone who also believes in this cause.
Thank you, Yazan. Are you going to be a while before you get somewhere? Or do you want to share about what you're doing and some of your passions?
For sure. Hey, everyone. This is Yazan. I've been in Jordan, to be honest, ever since the day I was born. So I was born here. My dad and mom were also born here in Jordan. Now, I'm connected to Palestine through my through my grandparents from Tulkarem, as well as Ya'bad. So both of these cities are what we kind of call those marginal cities which lay just across the border where the occupied lands are. By that, my dad's family were able to leave without being forced to, whereas my mother's side from the family were displaced by the economic pressures for not being able to live freely, not being able to grow their wheat, their farms. So when it comes to that, my connection to Palestine comes from the fact that wherever I would go, I would know that, okay, we were displaced. This, we might have called this a temporary place or even a place for us to just stay. But personally, it could be my engineering background, or it could be the way that I look at things. But I see things from a process perspective, as in nothing happens for no reason, and everything should be calculated. Because of that, let's say my mission in life, my hopes in life as well, is to create something similar to empowering our youth, ensuring that they are getting there. And by doing so, first of all, through the experience of the European Union, through Erasmus, as well as through youth exchange, wherever I would go, I would be able to show the people or the friends that I would make, the educators that I would meet, that, okay, um, the idea of the European Union worked, even though there are people who are fighting, people who have literally almost zero interest in each other, yet we can always put our hiatus aside, put our issues aside, because at the end, we're just one people, we're a full humanity. So I would say if the people of Ireland, the people of South Africa, even the people of America, as when you say a land that was fully made by people who found one cause to join each other, because sometimes at this point I would say we are here, this is what we are, and being like based on realism, what we need is a common cause for us that, okay, we all call this our land, we all want to be together, and we all can, only if you and I accept that. So personally, that's my calling in life. I want to ensure that everyone around me, even myself, have a chance to call Palestine our home.
Thank you. And I think when we mentioned this before, I mean, just since you just touched on it, what is your vision for this new Palestine where everyone has a chance to call it home?
For sure. Now, my point of view might be a little bit integrated into Palestine itself, because when we say Palestine or the Palestinian people or even the people living there, we're not talking about one demography. It's actually five. You have the people of Gaza, the people of the West Bank, the people of Jerusalem, as well as the people who are within the occupied lands. So when we're talking about them, each one of them has their own, at the moment, their own understanding of what Palestine is. I cannot say that someone from Gaza would have the same, let's say, point of view as someone from the West Bank versus someone who is in Jerusalem versus someone who is in the occupied territories. And the fifth part is those in the diaspora, myself included. I've never felt that we have been, let's say, understood, like, let's say, as a group. Instead, we're all talking from our own, let's say, unfortunately, our own silo here. But joining all of these different demographies, the only thing that we would have in common is our land. Our hopes and dreams, again, there could be different, but personally, we can fit so many people in one place or in one area of land. Maybe people are humans have been like colonizing the whole world so far, and well, it could be in our nature. I'm not sure, but what I know is this place has room for everyone. Personally, as long as you're okay and willing to live with me, to collaborate with me, to coexist. And to be honest, even when I say coexist, that means we're different, but just live. We're able to live together, just share everything that we have. That's, to be honest, my vision. Just being able to utilize the things we have, the land that we have, the people, the potential. We're wasting so much time, so much money, so much effort on hating each other. Whereas at the end, this is the only earth we have. Palestine is the only country we have, let's say, that I can at the moment call home. But if we're just wasting our time, yeah, just fighting, then there's no point. All of that moment, that effort, that money that could have gone into education, into infrastructure. So I'm really hoping that you, like, by the power of the mind, the power of the world, the power of our voices, that will create a space for people, let's say, for hopefully for similar people or people with the right intention to join in and build this idea, build this, let's say, great place of Palestine. That's my idea of it.
And because I know you so well, you're a vegan, you like to jog, you're like you're the most lovable person. And so I just want to make it clear, like, you include is the people in the people who consider themselves part of the occupying state right now in that vision, those who wish to live in peace, just to clarify.
For sure, because I don't know, like what happened let's say about 100 years ago, you don't really have a lot of people from that time at the moment. At the moment, most of these people have been like born in Palestine, raised in Palestine, and maybe they kind of lost the connection to the other places they've come from. So like knowing that and saying that, okay, they might be less part, but no, if you were born there, you're part of the whole ecosystem, you're part of the land. You don't really have anywhere else to go. You might have a different citizenship, but you've lived your whole life here. You belong here more than, let's say, where your grandparents were at the moment.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. Thanks. Hopefully we'll get back to that, but I'm really glad that you got a chance to share what you did. And Butaina, if we could hear from you. Would love to hear. Thank you so much for coming after prayers, and you're such a light. You are such a, your family, the way that you invited me in. Here, let's see. I want to get your face up here on the screen. Spotlight for everyone. Okay. There you are. So I know Buthaina because she is a really passionate environmentalist and leads an organization called Katuf. And I won't say too much more. I'd really like to hand it over to you. If you would like to share with us just a little bit about how you arrived as an environmental leader in Jordan, and what you're dedicating your life to, how you came to that, and then if you want to share more about, the things that we discussed about your feeling as a Palestinian.
Okay, salam alaikum everyone, and thank you, Melanie, for making all of this. It's much appreciated that we are connected as a human. This is something very, very, very important. It's beyond border and it's a humanity. This is very important to talk about it. I'm Buthaina. I'm a Palestinian, originally from Palestine, from Ain Karim. It's a small village near Jerusalem. I will talk about it a little bit, but before that, I am proudly also a Jordanian. I born in Jordan. My father and my mother born in Ain Karim in Palestine, both of them, and both of them have lived in different ages of the. For both of them have lived the Nakba. 1948, and this is from there we can start, or even from that year or before it a little bit, we can start from there, because this is what I was. Maybe my colleague heard about it from their grandfather. I heard it about it from my father, my mother, and grandparents, and all of them. So I know about Palestine. I hear about it. I know what's happening there and everything. So why I get connected to Palestine, I will tell you in my personal story later on. But for now, I'm, as Melanie mentioned, that I am an environmentalist, and I have this passion about environment, because the planet is for all of us. It's not matter from any country you are. At the end, we all share the land, the air, and also the water. All of us share it, and all of us have to take care of it, despite wherever you are living and what's your position right now. From there, I have started to my passion about environment. Before it, I was working with UNRWA. It's for the Palestinian refugees, so I get more touched with my country, my Palestine, the whole issue, the refugees that I'll have worked with them in Jordan and everywhere also. So it's a little bit. Let's say if I'm talking about Palestine and the Palestinian, it's not only the one who are living in Palestine, with all the respect and with all the love for them all, because they are still living there and they are still fighting for our land there. And also we have our fight in a different way, if we can say, who are living outside Palestine in different countries and different way. I am blessed that I'm in Jordan. Jordan is let's say the soulmate of Palestine in a different way, but we have let's say the same air, if we can see. So I smell Palestine from here. If I go in different places in Jordan, I can see different cities from Palestine also. So there. We have start. If I want to start how I get connected to Palestine, not only through my stories I heard about from my parents, of my grandparents, all about Palestine, about Ain Karim. First, let me give you a small brief about Ain Karim. Ain Karim, it's a small village near Jerusalem. All of the people who are living in Ain Karim, they displaced from Ain Karim in 1948 in the Nakba, after the massacre of Deir Yassin. So the killing is started from there, or from that year, before 100 years or more. It started from there. All when Deir Yassin, it's near Ain Karim. So when the massacre happened there, the people in Ain Karim take their let's say their families, their women, their children, and displaced to Jordan, and they kept all the official document for their home, their land, and everything in one of the church, because Ain Karim have 7 church we have there in Ain Karim. and it's connected to Jesus and to his mother Maryam also. So they left all the whole official document in the church because they are just going to Jordan for 1 week, 10 days maximum, and then they will come back. They took with them only their home keys, and they left. And still till now we didn't return to Ain Karim. In the meantime, Ain Karim, all our houses is there. My grandfather's house is still as it is, and but it's now all the people who are living there are from Israeli coming there and have lived in our houses in Ain Karim. When I was a small kid, let me go to this story because it's from there I have this connection with being a Palestinian. When I was a small girl, I was going to Palestine to attend one of my cousin wedding there, and after we go, my cousin is living in Jerusalem. After we go there and we have attended with my uncle and my mother and my father. And after we attended the wedding, we go to Ain Karim for sure. We are going to visit our village. When we go there, I have started hearing from my uncle and my dad about all their memories, what they was doing here and what they are doing here, who's living here and who's their friend and their neighbor and everything. So they start sharing the memories of all the life that they have being living there. And when we reach our grandfather house, and we stand in front of our grandfather house because we can't enter it because there is someone is living there, have to take it and living in it. They start talking about their memories in the house itself. In this place, we was taking breakfast with our mom and dad. In this place, we was playing. In this place, for me, as a little kid, I have started hearing about all of it. I have saw it. You know, it's like a movie. You are seeing everything moving in front of your eyes. And in the same time, I have saw the tears of my father and my uncle also, because it's their house, you know, their memories, their lives there, and they displaced from it and they left it. Yes, we go to Jordan, and Jordan was a very welcoming country for Palestinian, but also we still have our house, our land there. And while we are standing in front of our grandfather house, I have saw, you know, as a little kid, I have saw an orange tree, and so I want to collect the orange. And when I start to collect the orange, the lady in the house there from the Israeli, it's come out and she start shouted on me to let me left the tree. As a kid, I get afraid and I stop. But my father and my uncle started, no, it's our tree, it's our land, it's for us, it's not for her. So you go there and pick all the orange you want to eat. It's for us. When she heard when she heard us, all of them, how they was encouraging me to do that, she go into the house and closed the door, and I collected all the orange. It's our orange, you know, it's our hand, it's our house. And from there, I have this connection that I'm a Palestinian. You know what's a Palestinian know? That I have a land, I have a house, but I'm not living in it. I only have it in my soul. This is something, I don't know if it will be for all the people to know what's that's mean, but it's something, yes, it's a painful in a way, but also we have this connection in our soul to Palestine. So this is from there we have started. And from there I have started working on UNRWA to help my people there, in the refugees camp, to help them and to start, let's say, you know, for refugee, when you work with the refugee, anything you will do for them, they will keep saying, our right to return, our right to return. Even if you go there and just making the life, their home, it's more, let's say, suitable for life more. It's giving them access to water or anything you give to them. They will say, our right to return, our right to return. So this is something also you have to be connected with Palestine, because it's our right to return also, yes, because they're our land, they're our house, they're our country, and it's for us, and it's stolen from us. Yes, the people who are living there, they are not, let's say, have a perfect life, for sure, and the massacres or what happened, the genocide, it's happening, or even taking all of them to prison. It's the story of their life in Palestine. It's not only from the 7th of October, it started, no, it's the whole life there. They face the same issues there, the killing, the prisons, and everything is their life there. But for me, I think they have the privilege that they are living in Palestine, not dreaming of Palestine like we do, the one who are living outside Palestine. We dream of it. We dream of the day that we will return to Palestine. And this is something, to live all your life, to do whatever you do, to whatever you work, whatever your dreams, whatever your efforts you are doing, you have this, let's say, small dream keeping inside you that I have to go to my home, my dream to live there, my dream to reach it. At the end, I want to reach it at the end. And this is something very important.
Thank you so much, Putaina. That's opens up so many more questions for me that we weren't necessarily going to be talking about, but Yazan had mentioned, when you, like, your ability to go back and visit family homes is not possible because you would have to get certain permissions and visas, and those are very difficult to get. I mean, there's, I just want to interject with, you're saying it's difficult, like the checkpoints, like taking 8 hours to get one way to work, one way back. I had studied human security in my master's program, and my thesis was about population and fertility rates and why people who are living in the most difficult circumstances have the most children. And so I was studying World Bank statistics across Africa, across Asia, all over the world. And what you would normally think when you're looking at population is that, people who are living in rural areas, they have a lot of kids because they work the land and all of these things. And this is back in 2000 that I was looking at this data. And it was actually, it takes into account religion and all of these things. But, the people in occupied Palestine had more education of the women. The women were educated. Usually it's women who have lower education have a lot of children. They were living in urban environments, against the statistic, normally if you're living without urban, you have a lot of children. So against all of these factors, the second highest fertility rate in the world were women in occupied Palestine. And what that says to a demographer or somebody who's looking at these things, you actually can look at zoological studies and populations who are being threatened to death, like literally existentially scared to death, that you were before October 7th, this is in 2000, the data points on population research will show you that the indicators that would make somebody feel like their whole group of people their existence is being threatened, those conditions were so strong that they were pushing the families against all of the other determining factors to basically have the fertility rate of somebody next to that's living in Chad, war-torn, you name it. So I presented this thesis at a conference in Colorado, Sustainable Resources Conference. And in that track, there was a woman, she was a nurse who had been working in, I don't remember if it was the West Bank or where, what part of occupied Palestine she was working, but she was like you guys, you know, just so beautifully peaceful, loving, kind, clear, intelligent, and describing the checkpoints that were keeping people from going to hospitals, keeping people cutting people off from basic services, you know. So that's anyway, that was back in 2000, 2001. I just wanted to bring that in. Yes, it has been going on. And now we have this extraordinary crisis, which is so, you know, it's like the inertia, the amount of change that's needed to break this machine that has made this the status quo for 75 years. Like that, to stop the genocide is what it's going to take. That level of energy and collective action, that critical mass collaboration is what it's going to take, not only to stop the genocide, but then to free Palestine and to have one nation. I was at the beginning of this, I was cheering for a two-state solution. And the more I'm talking to everybody and learning and researching, it's like, no, apartheid is apartheid. Why should these boundaries be there? Why should there be a wall? If we could bring down the Berlin Wall, if Northern Ireland can be at peace, if South Africa, I mean, even Zimbabwe, even though Robert Mugabe turned out to become that which he hated, look familiar, but if South Africa can do it, so can the brilliant, educated people who are in the occupying, you know, side in Palestine. And, you know, fear. That's what there is to fear. So, okay, Zip, I want to come back. I know we had a few more questions. I'd like to return to Fatina because we didn't get too deep into your story. We were going to come back to you.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Super, super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. What does that lead you to right now? Over to you, Fatina.
So much. So I know that, you know, I feel just very transformed by all of this. I think kind of similar to what I wrote in the bio, I think very much when you are in the diaspora, right? And your family's in the diaspora, even though we have, you know, a ton of family living in Turmosaya, in, you know, in occupied Palestine, you know, there's this self-censorship that happens. There's this muting that happens of your identity, right? And there's just something in me. There's two moments in my life. I want to talk about one defining moment. Years ago, you know, during one of my visits to Palestine, I was in El Khalil, which is Hebron, for those who don't know. We were visiting Masjid al-Ibrahimi with family. And I was sitting there, and even though for years we've been going to, you know, Palestine since you know, we were kids, but there was just something that the checkpoints, it was just like, and we've gone through checkpoints, but it's just so interesting how it becomes inculcated into your like your existence. Like, this is just the way of the world. We have these people, right, that are all in this military gear, and they have all the weapons, and they're mean and they're cruel, and they yell at you, and they yell at your parent, and they yell at your aunt, and sometimes they hit you, sometimes they push you, sometimes they ask you to get out of your car. I got in, you know, whenever I travel through Ben Gurion, I get interrogated for just hours for nothing, you know, kind of making you really just like these very demeaning, subjugating, just the way in which you're treated, right? Just the very way in which they approach you. And it's all to assert their power. And there was just, and so again, like taking that for granted, right? Just that is the way of the world. And years ago, I think I was just, it just got to me, just watching how they were treating my family, treating everyone in this checkpoint. And so I think by the time it was my turn to get checked, I got checked. You know, they kind of look at your stuff, they check you. But then I think someone else, because they didn't like how I looked or my facial expression that I made when they insisted that I get checked again, they sort of lost it. And they basically said, like, get out, like, you know, litrayot, I think it's in Hebrew, but they were just kicking me out. I mean, you know, pushed me out, pushed me against the wall. And then one of the IOF soldiers took out a weapon, kind of put it to my head. It was an M16, and he did that in front of my entire family, and everyone just started screaming. And in that moment, it was just like I saw sort of, you talk about the story, but then I saw the story, and I saw how, like, my role in the story, that I was the good sort of, like, the victim, we call it, right? Like, just it's the way of the world. You accept it. You don't give them attitude. You don't look up. You know what I mean? You just kind of like, and I just sort of woke up in this moment, right? And I was just like, you're a coward. Like, why are you pointing this at me? And eventually, after some time, they did let me go, and they didn't allow any of my family to go into the Masjid al-Ibrahimi. But that is when this notion of occupation came into my head. That is when I understood the concept of resistance. That is when I understood that as a Palestinian, for too long, we've been muted, we've been sanitized, we've been censored. Not just here, but I would argue, Bethany, in Jordan, I would argue like all across like the world, like that there is this sort of censorship that goes on. You can't be fully Palestinian. And then fast forward now to this horrific, it's really rendered me without words, this genocide, where now I'm like, whoever I was before, this muted person, where I never felt it was quite the right time for me to show up for myself, show up for my family who's been displaced, show up for my family that have been harmed in occupied Palestine, and just all the harm that's done in this country, because you can't show up fully for yourself, right? Because you get called all these names. That I was like, no more. No more. Whoever that was before, that version of myself, this is when we woke up. So I've been activated to fully show up as myself, right? And I think so those are the two defining moments, just being subject to just extreme force of like assault, I think, right? And then like, you know, putting it on my head and just even threatening, right? Like threatening to shoot me just for being bold, just like in my body language, I guess the body language that I was giving off. And of course, seeing everything that we're seeing, right? And that, so whatever version we were before, like what I'm seeing in this activation, we can never go back to what we were before, because it is that censorship, is that muting, it's that silencing, it's that sanitization that has led to the genocide that is happening right now.
Fatina, I want to, thank you so much. Thank you. You're an extremely empowering and inspiring person. I'm really honored to meet you at this point in time. And I hope that we can help bring a lot more light into the world. I wanted to ask everyone a couple of things. We're kind of coming up to the top of the hour, and I want to ask everyone, how are you feeling after 6 months of watching this genocide unfold, as it has unfolded and become clearer and clearer? How are you in seeing this? And I know that could be an hour each, but I didn't want to leave it out. And then we'll also want to ask all of you for a call to action. Do you want to continue, Fatina, or do you want to pass it on? Or
I mean, I could just say one thing and I'll pass it on.
Go ahead.
Just make sure I get unpinned, that way, you know, people can see Azan and Buthaina. I think I'm like, I kind of touched on it. I'm really rendered without words. I'm really, this is the way I see it, is that now we have to be brave, because now we know that when we are silent and we silence ourselves, this is what happens. And I go back to this notion of the good victim, right? Like, what does that even mean? Like, why is it that when we finally stand up and we protest and we speak up at city council meetings and we, you know, we talk in just plain language about what's actually happening in the occupation, it's somehow manipulated to make it seem something that it's not, right? And I think for me, like, that's the impact that I'd have. I've just became so painfully aware of what it means, you know, to be a Palestinian, what it means for my family, why my dad always looks so sad. You know, I just want to share one personal story. In 1936, my dad's grandfather, he got murdered by the British during they call it the Arab Revolt, but it's the Palestinian uprising. And they could never find his body. They just assumed he was killed. He went to Al-Quds in 1936. And that is how my great-grandfather, you know, was great-great-grandfather, excuse me, was murdered. And it's just so funny. It's just how much seeing like what's happening in Gaza, and how like people might never find the bodies of their missing relatives, right? And so my call to action is truth. We need to speak plainly. We need to be brave. We need to expose Israel's crimes. You know, for too long, we've been kind of terrorists. They're the terrorists, right? Like we need to expose the crimes. We can't have these double standards. And to me, it's like and so I'm no longer interested in engaging in dialogue that doesn't expose the complete truth. So I think my call to action would be really being a critical thinker, exposing media bias. You know, please follow us at Unmute Humanity via Instagram and X. Follow our actions, but I think we need we need to start there, right? Like disrupting these inequities, this bias that has allowed this genocide to go on and on and on for 6 months, and it's still going. Right. And so I think that is a starting point. Let's be brave. Let's speak truth to power, but real truth to power, even if it causes discomfort.
Yes.
Spot on indeed.
Thank you.
It's very important.
Yeah, Fatima, go ahead.
It's very important what you have said, Fatima. Yes, it's now the time that we have to make our voice more loud. We have to because we have so many people, so many human have heard us, and they are so what's happening on Gaza now. This genocide, it's not only for people, it's only for everything, for human, for animals, for the environment, for the air, for the water, for everything. They are destroying the whole Gaza there. They are not only destroying the people, they are not killing the people. So it's our time now to talk loudly and to bring all the human all around the world, like Melanie and everyone there who have this humanity and like to really to support the human also, their rights, and stop just only talking about rights of the children rights, the women rights, which was in this genocide bullshit. There is nothing happened for them. They are all of them. The women are killed. The children are killed. Everything there. So we have to stop just saying words and just saying all these things, and to go and make action of it, and bring all the human together, because this is something touch all the human. It's not only for the Palestinian. This time it's for Palestine. Maybe in other years it will be for another country, for another people. We don't know. So it's the time to make our voice loudly, more and more and more and more, and to make all the people know that the people who are genocide there, they are also human. They have dreams, they have life, they have things to make their life better. They was planning to do so many things also there. But because they are living there and because there is occupation there, they lost their life in just a 1 second. Because some of the occupier who maybe want to give a gift for his daughter, for his wife, for his loved one, anything, which is also a very painful, that you are killing our people in our land for fun, for, I don't know, it's something very crazy. What's happening, it's very crazy. And we have to keep our voice loud and loud and loud and loud. Not only the Palestinian, all the human in the planet should do this. And also the planet itself, because there's a destroying for the planet. So the planet, if have a voice, the planet will say, stop making all these things. You are destroying me. The planet are saying that they are destroying me. Stop saying that we have sustainable goals and we will reach our goals in 2030. And stop saying that. Because the action that we have to do is to make it right, not only to say it. This is what we have to do.
Thank you. Shukran, Habibti.
Thank you, Hussein. For me, I try to be as concise as possible. But for me, like, I'm not gonna say it's just for the past 6 months, 7 months. It's ever since I felt that, okay, it could have been racism. It could have been like people distinguishing between each other based on race, based on nationality, based on whatever. I just wanted to like clear a couple of things and like be clear in a couple of them as well.
Take your time.
Yeah, it's not a conflict at the end. It's just a settler relationship with people who have been removed, displaced from their lands. When we say even a conflict, we're saying that both parties are, let's say, on common grounds. Well, they're not. Since the past 6 months, literally, our TV is just on Al Jazeera. That's literally the only channel we have. It's always on the news. Does it feel good? No. But that's the least we can do. Just to be there with our brothers, with our sisters. Even if you're not there, your brothers in humanity. They're just being killed. They're being, like, even recently when I've seen unarmed civilians being targeted with rockets. I'm not even saying bullets, rockets. They just evaporated out of this earth. Like, okay, maybe people were dignified by burial, but those people, their atoms have been spread in the air. And looking at it, I know that some of the people out there, they're there to get us. And I'm pretty sure that some of these people have no place. I'm not even sure on this earth, but based on what we're seeing, if Earth could say something, if it could like speak up, it would really say, as Bataina said, just stop, just stop. So what I want to say is, think with your mind and speak up. There is nothing better than the power of words, being able to find a new person, even one of your friends. Just explain what's happening, speak the truth. And personally, this has been more helpful than any kind of piece of news. It's just the true power of words. And my call to action would be find the next person. It could be your neighbor, it could be your friend, someone literally just out there, a stranger, and just let them know about this case, our cause. Maybe just not just the Palestinian cause, but the cause of humanity. Why do we have to suffer like this, even though we had a chance to just be one? And that would be my call. It was really like great thing to hear from you, Fatina, Buthaina, Melanie. It's just amazing to
And you
because
too
at the
also.
end we're different.
Yeah, all of
And
you.
it's always great to hear from each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you, Melanie, for creating this space, and Yazan, I'm sure it's not the first time I'll hear from you and Bothaina. Thank you. Thank you both. I love hearing your stories.
Always a pleasure.
And your story, Melanie, of course. You're muted.
You muted.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. It's so healing to my heart, and just feels so good to have this time with all of you together, to introduce the three of you, well, Buthaina and Yazan, to Fatina. And I look forward to hearing your ideas and hearing from the folks that are on the listening live right now, and who listen to the recording, and getting feedback on how we can be most effective in building bridges, and creating this new reality that is possible because we say it, because we can dream it, and making it so through who we are and who we choose to be moving forward. And thank you all for being such a fine example of humanity in this very dark time that I feel like I'm never waking up from a nightmare, and this is a good dream today. So thank you, and salam
Thank you.
alaikum, shukran, habibti,
Be upon you.
Free Palestine.
free Palestine. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Till next
Thank you.
time.
Bye.
A la próxima.
Salam.
Ciao.